Nesson Nation, you know what it is, a show where we react to what you got going on in your group chat. That's right, Boston has entered the chat here for a Friday, June 6th. Travis Thomas, George Balekji, we turned up because we think heavyweight bout tonight in the Bronx, Yankees, Red Sox. Sox need it more than the Yanks, though, brother.
You know me, bro. I'm not a brown noser. I don't give out anything that isn't earned or deserved. I'm not calling it a heavyweight bout until I see the Red Sox
It's like a middleweight fight.
Consistently play good baseball and make this rivalry what it should. They have the potential.
What is this, a sparring match?
At this point, man, there's a heavyweight and there's a guy making his way back into his prime. That's what it feels like.
Ah, a little Rocky.
We know the potential's there. Exactly.
I can dig that.
I'm not in the corner saying, throw the damn towel. I'm not doing that yet. I'm not doing that yet.
We could be by tonight. Let's hope not.
No.
Let's hope instead we're like, yes, we're back. Here
I like how the pitching matchups lay out. Max Fried pitched last night for the Yankees.
Nails.
Absolutely nails, exactly. But the fact that you have Walker Buehler in a favorable matchup, it'll be Will Warren, then Garrett Crochet, the ace, the guy, the stopper, everything he does on Saturday. And that's an environment Crochet thrives in.
Facts.
He loves to be the dude. And he's coming off his best career outing. 112 pitches, 12 Ks, striking out the side. And
War pig.
Yelling to the sky in excitement and just how locked in he is. Exactly. So I like how this weekend series breaks down for the Red Sox. But what do we always do? We look at the team on paper. We did preseason.
We did.
This lineup. I like the rotation. I like everything. They should win. I like how this breaks down, but everything's on paper. We got to see the team eliminate the errors, eliminate the mental mistakes, make the right plays defensively, just do the small things right, the little things right when it comes to hitting, and then everything adds up. And take a 2 or 3 in the Bronx, that's big.
Well, that's where we're starting with what's trending. All the big stories in sports is Red Sox, Yankees. But remember, you can catch us 8 a.m. on Nesson, 9 a.m. right here on Nesson Nation. And we're interactive. Email us to chat@nesson.com. Tweet at us using that hashtag NessonChat. Also, you can call us. I mean, you have options galore with us. We're like a buffet. 617-790-0928. But look, Buehler tonight on the bump for the Sox. Look, I know you think I'm nuts. I still am looking at a path for this team to get to the playoffs. It's like a beautiful mind. I have equations in my mind. But it has to start tonight in the Bronx. I do think, ironically, we're going to get a close game. I think all the I's will be dotted. All the T's will be crossed.
Yeah.
I like the Sox tonight. And by the way, it could be poetic if I'm right, and it's a tight game. They could win a 1-run game late. Hallelujah. We just saw it happen against the Angels, but that's the Angels.
Thank you.
This is the Yankees we're talking about. And that was at Fenway in a walk-off that would only be a walk-off in Fenway. This is a Bronx we're talking about, but I still think the Sox get it done. There are some people out there agreeing with me, George. I just want you to know. I mean, I know it's not a lot, but here it is. My guy, Drew. Yankees series prediction. Sox win on Friday against Will Warren. That's right. Sox win on Saturday, Crochet Day. That's right. Now, he has them losing on Sunday, which I respect.
Rodon's been good.
Maybe I'm too optimistic, but I like the pitching matchups for these first 2 games. No, Drew, you're not too optimistic. I'm with you. I agree. Do you, George?
Like, I like how everything falls, and I understand what our guy Drewski Sox is saying there, 1,000%. But like I said again, we put it down on paper, and then we see what happens on the field.
Fair.
And I understand the looking at the big picture and how to get back into the postseason, at least in the picture. I mean, it's there. It is baseball. They have all of June.
Yes.
They have all of June. But it is a team that we see perform well against the Mets and stumble all over themselves the following series. Take 2 or 3 in Atlanta against the Braves, and then just narrowly, literally by inches of pesky pole, avoid getting swept by the Angels potentially.
Yeah.
It's win on Friday, take Saturday, because you have to with these pitchers, set your bullpen up for success, and shoot. Sunday, all bets off, and you put yourself in the driver's seat. What gets me with this Red Sox team and what it's been is we see the potential, we see the talent, we see the adversity they have to battle through. Alex Bregman out for a substantial amount of time. Obviously lose a first baseman in Tristan Casas. And trying to piece together this defense. Wilyer Abreu's bat in right field has gone quiet. Jarren Duran wasn't Jarren Duran that we saw last season up until the beginning of May. So Dana Rafaela, fantastic in center field, has home run after home run, game after game. But can he make the smart plays? And we don't even have to get into the infield. Christian Campbell, what's happened? All of that, right? But this is a team where Their bats are still producing top 10 in batting average, top 10 in OPS in Major League Baseball. They're still scoring around 5-6 runs a game. They are now, the bats are waking up in a way of keeping it simple. I mean, in their win they had over the Angels, we saw 12 hits in that game, 1 home run, 1 double, the rest, no extra base hits. Hitting small, doing the right thing, making the right plays,
sure,
and just making contact, right? We see this Red Sox team taking the right steps in a way, but you have to eliminate the self-inflicted errors. They have to eliminate the mistakes. They have to play smart baseball, simple baseball, clean baseball,
fundamental.
And then these one-run games, instead of being 6-17, are now 7-17.
Yeah.
I mean, the walk-off doesn't count, which is BS. But now, instead of being 6-17, I mean, you flip it, man. You take away some losses, you add them to the wins, and that's a winning record, and it's a whole different situation for the Red Sox.
To your point, if even for the sake of this combo, they take 2 out of 3 from the Yankees and the Bronx.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the next 6. You get 3 with the Rays here in Fenway. You see what the Rays are doing, and then you get 3 against the Yankees here in Fenway after that.
Yeah.
So it's like, great. 2 out of, well, again, just being optimistic here. You take 2 out of 3 from the Yankees in the Bronx. Murderer's Row continues here. So, you know, you can look at it both ways, too. That's a way to make hay if you are going to make a playoff push, so to speak. So it doesn't stop for the Red Sox.
West Coast trips, Seattle, San Francisco, both teams with winning records. Giants have been good, just in a tough division.
That's right.
With the Padres and Dodgers, and then against the Angels, too. Take care of it at home.
Let's pivot to the NBA Finals. Did you see the Pacers literally steal Game 1 from the Thunder in OKC?
Respect, man.
Tyrese Halliburton, game winner in your face, Dagger City. Game 1 was the Pacers' 5th comeback victory from a deficit of 15 or more points in the NBA playoffs, the most by a team in a single postseason, George, since 1998. This from NBA Communications. That's unbelievable, bro. Look, the Thunder, we talk about such a powerhouse, right? SGA is ridiculous. But it almost, and you hate this term, but it does almost feel like after watching Game 1, are the Pacers a team of destiny?
I know.
Is it the Pacers' time? Are we sleeping on the Pacers? We talked all this about the Thunder, and the odds tell you this should be over in 3. The Pacers should be waving the white flag for Game 4, not even showing up. Yet, they go into OKC. That place was insane.
Yeah.
Halliburton, game winner, in your face, dagger.
This is a team that we've seen. They're now 8-1 clutch time wins. 3 of those coming on the road.
Yep.
And this is a team that just doesn't blink in the moment. They don't care about the stage. They don't care about the situation. They don't care about the game. They know. The Pacers know the Thunder are better at everything.
Yes.
But what Indiana hangs their hat on, and we see it in the game, is that if the game is close late, we are better there.
Yeah.
We have the composure. We have the confidence. In a way, they have the arrogance of, oh, all right, 3 minutes left, down 7 on the road. All right, cool, we're in a great spot.
Sure.
Because this is an OKC team we've seen all regular season long and through the postseason. It's like the 2015 Warriors. You could be down 12-1 moment, you're down 25 in an instant. They know how to get stops, they know how to shoot threes, and they have so many ways they can hurt you. SGA was fantastic. Lou Dort was fantastic. Halliburton had just 14 points. But when the game was close late, they got the stops they needed.
Yes.
Saw Jalen Williams being forced into a tough shot, misses. We saw SGA forced into a tough shot, misses, and that's credit to Nembhard on that defense. And then we see that Halliburton come back on the other end, take a tough shot himself.
Yeah.
Coming downhill, full sprint. Honestly, going parallel to the hoop at some point, going across the elbow. 2 feet just inside the three-point line.
Yes.
Rises up in motion
Buckets.
and hits it.
Yep.
That's what gets me with the Pacers. It's Rick Carlisle, man.
Yeah.
It's part of it is Rick Carlisle and his coaching. It's his team understanding their identity. And for Tyrese Halliburton, they play selfless. They understand the role.
Yeah.
And it's in a way they embrace that underdog mentality. But it's Game 1. And I think that type of win for the Pacers and that type of loss for the Thunder, again, at home, up 7, 3 minutes to go.
Bro, they were up the whole game.
SGA put up 38 points, right? Exactly.
The whole game.
That wakes them up.
It was the weirdest game I've ever seen. Like, the whole night, it was just like the Thunder are in control.
I've seen weirder. I've seen a team up 20, not hitting any threes, and they kept shooting threes, and they blew that 20-point.
It's too soon. It's just too soon. It just cut me to my heart. But you're not wrong. For 2 games, by the way. Game 1 and 2 against the Knicks. But that's another topic for another day. Look, the fact that the Pacers were even in this game, when you look at the turnovers, brother, you have to give Rick Carlisle a lot of credit for that, too, making adjustments. That's what I'm saying. Stay in the game, and then you're able to steal it late. Our esteemed stage manager, Toby, once said, Tyrese Halliburton reminds him of Steve Nash. And I can't unsee it now when I watch Hallie play. I can't, because Steve Nash would dictate the pace of games.
Toby's doing this.
Sometimes he would drop. Toby's right. Sometimes he dropped 30. Sometimes he dropped 14, like Hallie, right? But he still dictates the way and the pace in which you play. And that's what this guy is doing. We have a series now, no doubt about it. All right, how about this? Aaron Rodgers. Plans on joining the Steelers.
Well, the Steelers are saying they've agreed to terms. Agreed to terms.
With Aaron Rodgers?
What I love the day and age we live on, this is presented by a law firm.
It is. What's going on there, George?
Bordis and Bordis. Presented by Bordis Law, we've agreed to terms with the residential national hallucinator and ayahuasca taker. Congrats on another 9-8 season from Jaguar Gator 9 NFL.
Gator!
That's rich coming from a Jaguars and Florida Gator fan. This is from Stacy. Goodbye, Coach Tomlin. You're not going to survive this season with Rodgers as your starter. And you know what, for Mike Tomlin? You know what? Good for him, because there's going to be teams lining up to get a leader like him.
They've been trying to run him out of town forever, and all he does is win. However, I do think this may be the first losing season for him. I do not believe in this. Aaron Rodgers, aside from being a moron who thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, I think from a football standpoint only, I think he's washed.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, we all watch. We saw him get hurt year one with the Jets. Okay, I'll give you that. You're a little long in the tooth. You're getting older. These things happen. Your body breaks down. He got hurt. But then the next season, he wasn't very good for the Jets.
Yeah.
And the Jets, much like the Steelers, have a really good defense and some weapons and a run game and a really good coach. Well, the Jets didn't have a good coach, but the Steelers have a good coach. Offensive line, iffy. Just like it was in New York.
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to work. We just watched this on a different team. They were just green. This is a black and yellow. Black and yellow, black and... It's not going to work, George. He is washed. I think they'll go 7-10. And I think it'll be Tomlin's first losing season, and then his seat will start heating up. They're not going to get rid of Tomlin.
I think he should just want to leave at this point, though. They're stuck in quarterback purgatory. Tomlin. I don't care about Aaron Rodgers at this point. I got burned by him. I had to take a shot of Johnny Walker at 7:30 in the morning because of it.
Yeah, you did.
Look, it's the same construction of the Jets. Elite defense, good number one receiver, decent offensive line. We'll see if they can stay healthy. But Aaron Rodgers, at this point in his career, and that's fine. Take care of your mental health. Do what you feel like is best for your brain. But part of playing long into your career and still playing at the level that he has the potential to tap into is taking care of your body. And he doesn't do that. He's always banged up, and he's not 100% bought in. The difference between being elite and good in the NFL is your commitment to the game, and Rodgers is cheating it. The Steelers are stuck, man. It was Mason Rudolph, Will Howard, or Aaron Rodgers. They had to make this move, but I'm off on Rodgers.
Fair enough. Let's talk a football team we care and we love. The Patriots. New unis. How about this? Blue and silver this season. There were a lot of thoughts that it would be the blue on blue, but we got a blue and silver action. What are you thinking here, George?
The jerseys still suck. I'm happy the silver pants are back, but the jerseys are
You're
awful.
not feeling the jerseys?
These are the worst jerseys in pro sports.
The worst?
Yes.
No.
At least they don't look like blueberries. These stink. Look how boring they are. When they did the blue on blues repeatedly.
They're not the worst in the league.
They are. Who's worse?
I mean, they're not the worst.
Who's worse?
I don't know. They're pretty bad.
Like, even the Giants with their boring same old run back since 2002, it looks better.
Right. At least it's consistent.
I'm excited for the silver pants. The Patriots, you got the new head coach, you have the franchise quarterback.
The jerseys right.
You guys want to be all about collaboration, marketing. Robert Kraft, you want to be hip, right? Meek Mill, Cardi B. Like the guy from Fanatics, whatever his name is. Get new jerseys. Stop messing with it. Your jerseys stink. And if you look at the late 90s, we all know the powder blue, Drew Bledsoe's, the one that Ty Law rocked with the big flying Elvis.
Yeah.
Go with those. Or throw it all the way back to your red AFL jerseys.
Oh.
Do that. You have two great iterations where you can make them a little modern and retro. These jerseys stink. So I'm excited for the silver pants, but they're still wearing those tops. Like, what are we doing?
Bro,
what did you do? You put a Porsche engine. It's not a Lambo. You put a Porsche engine in a Honda Civic. I'm a proud Honda Civic owner.
You are.
It's like, what are we doing?
Shout outs to all the Hondas out there.
Toyota Corollas too.
I'm not going to lie, George. Like, I know you so well. And I've known you for years. I had no idea you were this passionate.
They stink. I just don't understand what the thought was, and they keep trotting them out.
Why do you hate these so much?
Because they build a lighthouse. No one wants that. They go with the silver pants, nice, and they stick with these blue jerseys. They do all this stuff. Bro, look good. Look good on the field. What the Seahawks have done, bringing back their vintage jerseys. We've seen with the 49ers.
Yeah.
We've seen so many teams around the league. Even the Jets in their puke green, it looks slicker than what the Pats have. Change the jerseys.
When we come back, a kinder, gentler Boston has entered the chat.
Gotta do that to me.
Where we tell you this team we're talking about may be getting a weapon at wide receiver.
All right,
we'll explain and we'll tell you who next. And we have a great deal for you. If you sign up for the Nesson 360 annual plan, you get 2 free tickets to a Sox game. Sign up today at Nesson360.com for this limited time offer. We'll be right back. Nesson Nation, welcome back to Boston has entered the chat. So you're telling me there's a chance? Hey, the Patriots, we know, need some weaponry in the worst way possible on the outside at wide receiver. The one we do have seems to be distracted. However, you look around the league, Washington Commanders right now having some drama. Jordan Schultz was the first to this. Having some drama because he wants to get paid, bruh, and he should. All-Pro Terry McLaurin has made it clear to the team he's frustrated with the lack of progression on a long-term deal. He left voluntary workouts after initially attending George. It remains to be seen whether or not he'll report for mandatory minicamp.
This is big news because Terry McLaurin is 30 years old, last year of his contract, about to make $25 million. Commanders have some cap space, $21 million they have to work with. The Pats still have the most cap space in the NFL. And for the Commanders at the point they are with the Jaden Daniels, look, phenomenal rookie. I mean, he was absolutely phenomenal his rookie season.
Stud.
I mean, they made it to the NFC Championship game, and they lost to one of the best teams we've seen in the Super Bowl era.
Right.
Awesome. But right now they want to capitalize on the cost control contract window of a Jaden Daniels.
Sure.
They went out and got a Laramie Tunsil. They've revamped the defense. They've drafted a Jalen Lane. But having a guy like a Terry McLaurin helps with that. Like, he is a key component in why Jaden Daniels was so good. I mean, 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons, 15 yards a catch. That is a guy that's a chain mover, is a pro, a good run blocker as a receiver. But this is also a part where the Patriots could take advantage of the Commanders dealing with this unhappiness from a Terry McLaurin. They have the cap space. They have the draft capital. They have the quarterback under cost control. And they have some guys that they can move. What would get it done for this? Is it a 3rd-round pick in Jalen Polk? Is it a 4th and a future 3rd and a player? Is it Kendrick Bourne if not? What do the Commanders want? What do they need? What do the Patriots have? Same thing, cost control window. And what have we spoken about when we went through the Patriots schedule? They can make the playoffs.
Yes.
This is a team that hasn't won a playoff game since they won their last Super Bowl against the Rams. Have not won a playoff game since the calendar year of 2020. Have not won a playoff game since then. Have won 8 games combined the last 2 seasons. Have become a laughingstock in the NFL, publicly and in private circles. You add a Terry McLaurin, you become a serious team, a professional, unlike what we've seen from a Stephon Diggs.
Grown up.
Those are the steps it takes to, just refurbish and just recover the image of the Pats, but also help Drake May along with his progress. And, man, like, there are still a lot of question marks with this offensive line. I like the idea of the 5 guys that could be blocking for Drake May, but if someone goes down or someone doesn't work out, and you need the guys that are separators on the outside to help out Drake May.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, you said everything there. This guy's a leader. He's everything you want in a wide receiver. I guess the only knock maybe is the size, but he's technically bigger than Stephon Diggs. So it's like, well, what are you going to do there? And he's certainly more of a leader, more of a grown-up in the room. Polished route runner, goes across the middle, sure-handed, tough as nails, blocks, buys into team concepts, leads young and veteran guys. You know, I covered him in his career before I got here, and he was all those things. And by the way, he had trash. This is pre-Jaden Daniels, okay? This is pre-Dan Quinn. This is pre-ownership that they have now that has a clue, okay? Before that, it was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs around there. And this guy still showed up and was a pro, did everything right. He came in a little ticked off because he was underdrafted, he felt like. Late-round draft pick, thought he was better than a lot of guys. So he came in with a chip on his shoulder, and he played. I think it would be the same here in New England. I think if he doesn't get this contract, which I don't really understand why the Commanders aren't going there. I know you laid out a
30 years old,
salary cap.
He wants an increase in his pay. He wants an increase in the AAV, and they just probably his age and numbers.
They're making a mistake. That's a guy
I think
you
they
pay.
would be.
And so, listen.
He's real. He's a pro. He's a very good wide receiver 1. He's great downfield outside of the numbers, which is where Jaden Daniels loves to throw.
And by the way, if New England were to acquire him, okay, and we have fans doing the same thing you did, trying to figure out how do you get him here? Do you give a second? Do you give a third? We'll go through those. But he's coming to New England, George, with a chip on his shoulder as well, that he didn't get paid and he was spurned by the Commanders. Here's the tweets right here. Booty, Polk, a second. Get it done, Elliot Wolf. What do you think about that?
I mean, at least you're throwing them wide receiver assets they can develop. I think a second would get it done.
Okay.
But I think just a second alone could get Terry McLaurin. He was the 3rd-round pick in 2019. You turn on a third, you get 6 great seasons out of him, and you get a second in return. That could work. Here's the next tweet from Deep Pockets 06. Hey, throw me a rack, bro. Top 20 wide receiver and Jaden Daniels, wide receiver 1. You pay him easily, or my Patriots will send a 2nd-round pick for him. My Patriots. I like that Deep Pockets.
I'd give a 2nd-round pick for him, no problem.
I would booty and a 4th. I think
That's
a 3rd, 4th
like.
is a little more realistic. Well, look at the market of what George Pickens and DK Metcalf were traded for.
Yes.
Younger receivers than Terry McLaurin, but had to get paid, and that was 3rd-round picks.
Yep.
So I think that's where the price starts. Maybe you could say a 4th because he is 30, about to be 31.
Sure.
And with the Patriots window, at least he's immediate impact. Would he be playing at a elite level, a great level by the time Drake May gets into his prime? And, you know, this would be 2-3 years from now. I don't think so. But at the same time, for the Commanders, it's a little bit of hardball. It's making things work. It's negotiations. Nothing is obligatory yet when it comes to attendance.
Right.
And they know their window too.
Yes.
They know what McLaurin means for that locker room.
Yep.
And they know what he means for that offense. I would be surprised if he is dealt because of what the Commanders' window is and what his value is.
All right, let's play fantasy football for a second because I want to expand this conversation. Even though we're talking about Scary Terry, the same thing's happening down in Atlanta with Kyle Pitts. This is a guy who wants an extension as well. I'm looking at this as, if I'm the Patriots, I'm sitting back and I'm going, you know, those are 2 guys that could help my football team
100%.
right now.
100%.
And all I have to do is give up some draft capital and maybe a receiver that stinks anyways that we have in the building. I'm all in. I want Terry McLaurin and Kyle Pitts. Now, that may be a little ambitious, but it's doable, George. It's different in that Kyle Pitts is younger than Scary Terry and also hasn't been as productive, right? And we don't know if he's a leader or not. I doubt it. Where Scary Terry's more established, is a leader, check, check, check. But honestly, maybe I'm being greedy here. I think the Patriots should look at both. Why not? Pick up the phone, kick the tires, try to make it happen. Maybe you get one, or maybe, and I will go crazy right here on the show if it happens, you get both. And then overnight, your offense, you have real weaponry, George. All you got to do is pay them, and you have a ton of cash.
They got 2 4ths in the upcoming draft. They can trade a 3rd, I think, for a Pitts would be the number. And he'd get paid like a tight end. He wouldn't get paid like a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Now, if negotiations and what he's demanding and his agent is demanding is different, I don't know that.
Yeah.
But you can flip the draft assets to get a pro, veteran, immediate impact receiver who would slot in as your wide receiver 1 in Terry McLaurin. And then you could do it, trade the draft assets. Again, this would be the Patriots 1,000% going all in. 100% going all in if you go out and get a Kyle Pitts as well. But here's the thing. His usage would not be as a tight end. He's not in line. It would be him as a tight end, split out wide, and lining up like a receiver. He has to be used like a wide receiver. Don't use him like a tight end because he played tight end in college and he came into the draft as a tight end. But if you go and add a him or a Terry McLaurin, it upgrades the offense right away.
Well, you let the hype train tell it. You don't need Terry McLaurin. You don't need Kyle Pitts. You have Efton Chisholm. Because
No, you did not. No, you did not.
When you look at the hype surrounding this kid, George, I'm going to play some
Efton.
Yeah. We're going to play some sound. And when we come out of the sound, I need you to explain this to me like I'm a kindergartner. Because I swear, everyone's acting like this is a second coming of Jerry Rice. And I'm just like, seriously, I'm sure the kid will be great. We're all rooting for him. But let's just pump the brakes on Efton Chisholm. Here's Greg Bedard on him, and then we'll react on the other side of this.
I'm going to keep bringing him up. Efton freaking Chisholm. Greg, when do you start to take him seriously, or have you already started to take him seriously?
Yeah, I've already taken him seriously. I think on the last 2 podcasts after practices we talked, I think I've used the phrase, like, it's going to be hard to keep him off the roster. Look, the guy he gets open really well, quickly, and he catches the ball. I mean, there was one stretch, I think it was 4 passes out of like 6 that he caught in the practice, to the point where, like, I looked over at Phil Perry and I was like, Phil, Are they going to throw to anybody else in this practice? And like, I don't know what options you have. Yeah, Efton freaking Chisholm. We'll see, once we get into camp with the pads and the speed and, preseason games where, can he take a lick and keep going? But at least in the underwear Olympics, the dude's been a gold medalist so far.
The underwear Olympics.
It's good context
fantastic.
at the end.
It's fantastic. I mean, look, all the player comps are Cooper Cup, right? But I am at the point where I just need to at least see the kid in a preseason game. You and I have covered the NFL a long time in our careers. How often? It happens every year.
Yep.
That there's mini camps, training camp, preseason even,
yep.
Superstars.
Yep.
Superstars. And then you get to the regular season and they fall off a cliff. You never heard from them again. And so I get the excitement, but I also think some of the excitement is surrounding the fact that you don't really have anything. The cupboard's bare. I mean, everyone's hoping Stephon Diggs works out, but so far it's not looking good, is it? So I think that's some of it. This kid can walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. Check, he can play. But let's pump the brakes a little, right?
Is that he's doing this in the point of camp where everything is underwear Olympics, or more of a passing camp is a better way to put it. There's no pads on. It's 7-on-7 football, and even when it's 11-on-11, it's still 7-on-7.
Right.
The emphasis is on the passing game. And when you don't have pads on, guys can't put their hands on you as much. The physicality of NFL coverage, and DBs can't use their full repertoire, their length to their advantage, which he does have shorter arms, their size and strength to their advantage. Again, they don't have pads, they can't touch them.
Right.
That's where guys like this thrive. What he does do well is, and it was him coming out of Eastern Washington, precise route runner, get separation at the top of his routes as well. If he can't beat you off the line of scrimmage, he just knows how to get open. And I think that's where there is the and I dive into it.
Was he on your radar?
No, he wasn't.
Okay, I
knew of him, but he wasn't on my radar as a Patriots guy, and it made sense because he was an undrafted free agent for a reason.
Right.
Like the draft told you, he's not worth taking in the first 7 rounds.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, and I put him with the Xavier Restrepo type play.
Okay.
You don't love the testing numbers.
Yeah.
You don't love his size.
Yeah.
He's small. He's slow. Whatever you want to say. But when you put him on the field, does he get open and does he catch the ball? And that's the simplicity of football. I could boil down, I could bring out my scouting report and all these receivers, and I could read you my notes, and I put way too much time into those.
Not too much time, but he puts a lot of time. I ain't gonna lie. I see it.
That. I enjoy it. I enjoy that part of the
You
process. But what Efton Chisholm does right is that he knows how to run routes. He has reliable hands, and he understands chemistry and where the quarterback wants him to be and where to catch the ball.
Sure.
Now, where will that chemistry be with the Drake May? Where does he fall into this offense? And all of that, that's what leads to it, man. There's earning your way onto the field, being a good run blocker, being reliable, catching the ball, just being in the right spot and picking up the system.
Sure.
And just making that next step.
Well, that's the main thing, right? Just make the roster. Let's crawl before we can walk, right? Just keep doing your thing because he's doing his thing.
Yep.
Yes. And then make the roster, and then we can start worrying about an impact or not with this kid. But the hype train right now is just insane, which is why I go back to what I said at the top of the segment. Go get me Scary Terry. Go get me Kyle Pitts. Get me more weapons in here if possible.
Yeah.
So then a kid like this, if he makes a roster, there's no pressure. And he has a role. He's a role player, right? You can use him in different ways, different gadgets, different packages to illustrate his skill set. That's all.
And that's the thing with Chisholm. If he doesn't become anything this season, doesn't mean he stinks. He was an undrafted free agent. Cooper Kupp, 3rd round pick. Puka Nacua, 5th round pick. Terry McLaurin, 3rd round pick.
Yes.
The draft told you he's not worth a draft pick, but the Patriots could tell you he's worth a roster spot, and down the road he could become valuable.
More Boston has entered the chat next. Roll with us. We got plenty more. Remember, get the latest up-to-date live. We've got Boston sports headlines along with your daily dose of trending sports and social topics every weekday on Boston has entered the chat. Catch us live 8 a.m. on Nesson and 9 a.m. right here on Nesson Nation every Monday through Friday.
Hey Bruins fans, it's Marco Sturm. I'm so excited and happy and honored to be the new head coach and be back in Boston. I had a great time here as a player, and I'm really looking forward to lead this team and be behind the bench. Let's do it together, Boston. All right, looking forward to see you.
We're excited too, Coach, and we're excited because we got our guy Judd Sirott here. Thank you for getting up early and partying with us per usual, my man. It's always good to have you.
Early, I got 2 kids. This is the way it goes.
It's mid-afternoon for you.
Pretty much.
Were you surprised by this news when Marco Sturm was announced that new head coach of the Bruins, or were you like, yeah, I saw that coming?
No, not necessarily. I think with some of the guys that they brought in for interviews, Mitch Love and Jay Leach, who was on the bench, and a guy like Marco Sturm, and the Bruins obviously wanted to be thorough. That's certainly one of the things that the general manager, Don Sweeney, is known for, that it didn't necessarily surprise me. And he's a guy who checks a lot of boxes. He has NHL experience as an assistant coach for the Kings. He has head coaching experience in the American Hockey League. He has international coaching and management experience. He has a lot of experience coaching with young players, and he had a long NHL career. He played more than 900 games. And I think most importantly, he played 5 of those seasons in Boston. So he understands what the culture is all about. He played from 2005 to 2010 here in Boston. So I think having that distinct understanding will certainly help him here. So not a surprise at all. It's a solid hire.
Absolutely.
I would just like to say I feel validated because I pointed out those things yesterday. It's good to hear from you. You've been around the game. You know the Bruins. You know Boston well. But that's what makes a lot of sense. It's the different levels. He's played the game. He can relate to the veterans. He's helped develop guys at the AHL level and led a team. You mentioned his experience with the Kings, leading Team Germany, and also to take Germany to a silver medal win. Like, we know it's USA, Canada, and everyone else. It's not like Germany's a powerhouse. When you see all of those boxes checked, as you said, too, what in your eyes makes him the right guy with this roster? And at this point for the Bruins, where they want to get back to contention, and also it's a younger roster, but they have all the vets in place too, the leaders.
So the first thing I think about is 2 other coaches in the National Hockey League. Spencer Carberry with the Washington Capitals is a guy that a lot of people around the National Hockey League. Okay, how can we find the next Spencer Carberry? And if you look at his path, it's very similar to the one that Marco has had, except Marco has played, more than 900 games in the National Hockey League. That's something that Spencer could never ever say. Chris Knobloch, who's behind the bench with the Edmonton Oilers. So when Edmonton made that change a couple of years ago behind the bench, I don't think anybody was necessarily thinking about Chris Knobloch, but they plucked him right out of the American Hockey League. He was with Hartford, which was the Rangers' primary affiliate in the American Hockey League, and look at where he has his team. Up 1-0 in the Stanley Cup final against the Florida Panthers. But I think for a guy like Marco Sturm, and I think back to a comment that Charlie McAvoy had made when he first came back from his injury at the Four Nations tournament. We were in Anaheim, and one of the things that he talked about with the coaching change and some of the changes overall in the roster, he said, we understand, whether that's David Pastrnak, myself, Jeremy Swayman, some of the other guys who have been around here, we understand what it's supposed to look like, what it's supposed to sound like, what it's supposed to feel like in this room when this team is at its best. That's something that Marco Sturm can understand.
We always love partying with you because we get such insights from you because you watch this
Where
team.
are the cocktails?
I know. Well, I've been working on that. When they announced this yesterday,
John Walker Black knee. Okay,
I was screaming for champagne. We never got it. We'll workshop it offline. But, you watch this team so intimately every night. What's something that's a quick fix? Look, we talk about establishing culture, and that stuff takes time. It's going to take the Bruins a little bit of time here to get back to where we want them to be. We all understand that. However, you watch this team every night. What's something right away that Marco can come in and say, no, we're fixing this moving forward? This is a quick fix. We can get this squared away right now and then build everything else on top of it. What's something that jumps out to you where you watch every night and you say, that needs to be cleaned up and this guy can do it?
He has to be able to get this team back to defending the way that they're capable of. If you look back to last season, after the coaching change was made and Joe Sacco took over, the Bruins started to get back to that identity where they were stingy, hard to play against, and they were able to do it essentially after Thanksgiving and up to the Christmas break. They weren't able to replicate that, however, afterward, and that was part of the demise, and then you had injuries and some other things that obviously we've well documented. But that's the thing that the Bruins have to get back to. Can you get this team back to defending the way that they're capable? Let's assume that Jeremy Swayman is going to have a better season than he had last year.
Sure.
Let's also assume that the Bruins are going to be healthier than they were last year, where Charlie McAvoy and Hampus Lindholm are around, and that slots guys in better positions with Nikita Zadorov. And you essentially have 5 of your 6 defensemen that are coming back. Mason Lohrei is going to be a better player because of the experience that he had last year, playing his first full season in the National Hockey League. But it's more than that, and that's something that I think Marco Sturm understands, and a guy who played for a long time on the the left side with Patrice Bergeron as a 200-foot player. We need to be able to defend as 5-man units. What his system will be, that's something we're going to have to watch. The Bruins have been a layered system going all the way back to Claude Julien. When the coaching changes have taken place, whether that was Bruce Cassidy or Jim Montgomery or Joe Sacco, they kept that system in place. Will Marco Sturm do that as well?
I think it's big, too. Elias Lindholm put that back injury behind him. He played through it. But if he can be, to your point, a 200-foot center, that helps everything because they need to be better down the middle.
Well, if you look at the way that the Bruins are currently constituted, I think that most of the changes that you're going to see will probably exist on the wings. That was one of the things that the GM, Don Sweeney, had talked about. What those are, that's something that we're going to have to watch for between now and July 1st and maybe subsequently thereafter. I think in the big picture in the National Hockey League, the commissioner and the league sort of frowns upon big moves that are made during the Stanley Cup final because they don't want to take away from the crown jewel of the league. But I'm sure that there are a lot of moves that are in the hopper. So once this series between Edmonton and Florida ends, I would expect a lot of things are going to take place between the end of that series and July 1st, which is the start of free agency in the NHL.
George and I were talking yesterday, and I looked up oldest teams in the league. And a lot of them at the top of the Eastern Conference right now, including the Panthers, who are trying to win a cup. Panthers, Lightning, Canes.
Oilers are up there, too.
Throw the Oilers in there.
So, I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking timeline-wise, as we sort of start this retool for the Bruins, I mean, are we talking 2-3 years from now? Timing? The Eastern Conference should be wide open at the top, conceivably, with those teams getting older. Are the Bruins in a prime position now for this retool, let's say a year or two from now, to be able to regain where we're used to having them towards the top of the Eastern Conference?
Well, I think the mantra coming in from Cam Neely and Don Sweeney is that the Bruins want to be in the mix immediately. So I think that some of the moves that you're going to see here in the offseason will go toward that. One of the other things that they're going to have to do is they have to not only go out in free agency or in the trade market to improve the talent level on the team, but they also have to complement the leaders that are currently in the room. How do you help David Pastrnak, Hampus Lindholm, Charlie McAvoy, Jeremy Swayman? How do you be able to do that? I think that there were a lot of people who were surprised last year that the Washington Capitals were able to retool quickly and find themselves back into the playoffs. Yes, they did get swept by the Rangers in the first round last year, but you can see the advances that they made. And they finished at the top of the Eastern Conference this season. Yes, they got bounced in the second round by Carolina, but they made a lot of steps. And I think the other thing that was clear is that the Bruins don't want to just get back into the playoffs. They're not just going to go out and spend. They have about $26 million to spend under the cap as we sit here right now to go and spend and get themselves back into the playoffs and win one round. I think they'd like to put themselves in a position where they can go deep and they can do this for a number of years. And that's going to take some time.
I mean, that's what I like about the build of the roster. The pillars are there. Pastrnak, McAvoy, Swayman, like you say. Then they got younger. Casey Middlestat adding him as a center, too. What do you see in a guy like Marco Sturm that he can get the most out of a David Pastrnak, a Charlie McAvoy, Jeremy Swayman, and, pull the best out of them, too?
Well, I think he's an engaging personality. I think that's one of the things. If you talk to guys that have played with him or guys who have coached him, that's the one thing that comes across. Not just how bright he is, but how engaging he is. You could see it right there from the social media message that he had yesterday with the Bruins after he was named the head coach. Can he connect with guys in the room? And that's across a swath. You mentioned, can he connect with guys like David Pastrnak and Charlie McAvoy and Hampus Lindholm, as well as guys like Matt Patra or Fraser Minton or Mason Lohrei, Jeremy Swayman, who's still very young, to try and bring the best out of that group.
The draft is just a few weeks away. How does this hire, or does it, change the draft trajectory? Or do you think they already had a plan in place anyway, probably ran it by them, hey, this is what we're thinking, what do you think? How do you sort of see the draft now that we have a head coach playing out for the Bruins?
I don't think that's really going to impact the way that we're thinking about it. The Bruins have an opportunity to get a player that can make an impact at 7. Will that player make an impact this season?
Right.
That remains to be seen.
We'll see.
I think that the way this draft is looked at, I don't know if a guy that you take at 7 is going to be on your NHL roster from game 1 and playing in a top 6 role. And
Contributing.
And contributing at a high level. So I don't know necessarily that that's going to impact the way that they draft. I think for the Bruins, and this is an opportunity, they have 1 first-round pick this year, 2 seconds.
That's right.
Next year and the year after, 2 first-round picks. So you've got 5 here in the next 3 years, whether that's guys that you draft to restock your system or assets that you use to trade for pieces that you need. I think that hiring a guy like Marco Sturm, you have an eye toward what you're going to be able to put into your system and who you want to have coming up and matriculating on your roster.
And that's a guy that led the Ontario Reign to playoff berth after playoff berth. He knows what success in playing big hockey in the AHL looks like to help develop the young prospects. Like, he knows what a farm system looks like to develop the guys if they do draft. But I love you point out the assets, because those multiple firsts in the next few drafts, maybe it won't be draft picks. Maybe it'll be bringing in a younger player that can contribute at the NHL level. And to your point, immediately get back to the playoffs.
That's true. And if you look back at some of the guys that he had a chance to coach when he was in the Ontario, when he was with the Ontario Reign and in the LA Kings system, there are some guys who are really good players for the LA Kings. One of the guys that comes to mind is Quentin Byfield. And it took Byfield a little time to make his way to the National Hockey League. He first played alongside Andrei Kopitar on the wing, and then he moved over to the center position. And let me tell you, he is going to be a star player in the National Hockey League. Brant Clark is another guy who's a really adept offensive defenseman. It took him some time. How do you find your niche at the NHL level? As good as you are offensively, you still have to be able to defend. But if I look at that Kings roster, and Rob Blake, who's no longer there, did an excellent job of trying to retool that team on the fly. He kept Andrei Kopitar and Drew Doughty in that mix. And he was able to introduce some of those young players that we had talked about. And there were others that you can say that Marco Sturm had his hands on. Those are some of the things that you'll look at here with the Bruins. You know, the other thing that I started to think about when Don Sweeney was still a couple of years on the job and he had just hired Bruce Cassidy as the full-time head coach, he introduced a lot of young players into the team. 2017-2018 season, Sean Corrali, Danton Heinen, Matt Brislick, Jake DeBrusk. I mean, those are some of the names that just pop into my head. And I think there were a lot of people that were surprised, oh, this team is too young. I don't think they can contend. And it took them maybe until December to find their identity. And Bruce Cassidy was a guy who was able to bring that team into the playoffs and into a second-round series against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I see a lot of similarities between the hiring here and Marco Sturm and what we're seeing now to maybe what we saw about 9 or 10 years ago.
You're making me feel better, man. This timeline I'm thinking about is a little sooner than maybe I think. Look, you know we love you. You're such a pro. You're always prepared. You're so meticulous. Have you thought about your questions when you sit down with Marco yet? Let's talk game plan. What's your first few questions going to be to him about his vision for this team?
No, I haven't gotten there yet.
All right.
We'll see.
All right.
You know, we'll have an opportunity to shoot the breeze on Tuesday when he meets the media.
Cool.
Nice. But no, I haven't thought about that yet, but I look forward to getting
We can do it now. We can help you out, Judd. I mean, look, to me, it's the culture.
What question should I throw
It's just
at
culture. It's just how do you plan on establishing this culture? I mean, this franchise, with its history, with its history, with everything, what are you looking to do to establish day one that can carry over forever and ever? Amen.
Well, I think maybe the other question that you need to ask is how much do you have to infuse yourself within that culture? I think that there are standards that you need to set behind the bench. And if I look at some of the guys that he played for, it's pretty interesting. He played for some big personalities. He played for some stingy, disciplined coaches. So he started his NHL career under a guy in Darryl Sutter. Then he moved on, and he ends up playing for Claude Julien. He plays for Mike Sullivan. He plays for Terry Murray, who was basically the guy who instituted the defensive system for the LA Kings, which was the foundation for their Stanley Cup wins in 2012 and 2014. He played for Alain Vigneault. He played for some of these guys. So how do you take some of those experiences from some of those coaches who spent a long time in the NHL and were very different personalities, but also very successful, and bring that into the mix behind the bench? And then how do you introduce yourself within the room? I think the last time we were here, one of the things we talked about is whether it was Claude Julien, Bruce Cassidy, Jim Montgomery, they didn't really have to worry about the room. The room ran itself. With guys like Zdeno Chara and Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand and some of the other veterans that were in there. Now the mix has changed. So what sort of influence do you feel you need to have within that room in order to be successful?
the legend, Judd Sirott. You know we appreciate you.
Judd,
Thanks for getting
I
up
got to ask
early.
quick. We got 10 seconds. Who are you rooting for in the Stanley Cup final? Connor McDavid playing for Canadian team or Brad to get another Stanley Cup?
I love a good story. And I tell you what, if you had a chance to watch Game 1, that was exactly what you wanted from a Stanley Cup final.
Absolutely.
1,000%.
Physical, nasty, controversial, and an overtime finish. This is going to be a long series.
I think so, too. I think it's going 7. I like McDavid to get it done. Judd Sirott, we love him. Hey, by the way, when we come back here on Boston Has Entered the Chat, rivalry renewed. Tonight in the Bronx, Sox, Yankees. We'll preview it next. Welcome back to Boston Has Entered the Chat. All right, George, my math is mathin'. Ready?
Yeah.
34 games left until the All-Star break.
Okay.
Carry the 19 and 15. Hear me out.
Okay.
They go 19 and 15, back to 500, come out of the All-Star break.
Yeah.
You're feeling good.
Okay.
Maybe you're in. Forget the division right now. Let's just talk wild card.
Yeah.
I think this team's going to the playoffs, and it starts tonight in the Bronx. Yeah. I believe it.
Can we talk about taking 2-3 in the Bronx? Can we talk about winning Game 1 against the Yankees?
I'm already in October.
This is a team that won 16 games in April, then went 11 and 17 in May.
I know.
This is a team that we've seen the 17 one-run losses. This is a team that we've seen lose within the margins. Where if you're going to play that many tight games, that is a reflection of your fight. That is a reflection of your bats showing up. That the pitching pulling through. We've seen very short outings by starting pitchers going less than 2 innings, and we've seen the bullpen back them up and not allow or only allow 1 earned run. We've seen the response. But can we talk about winning 1 game before we talk about playoffs?
All right, let's stay big picture, and then we'll get to the game. Let's just stay big picture for a second.
All right.
Could I argue that all the mistakes, all the bloopers almost we've seen with this team, losing these close games, you're still in the games. So it's like 1 play here, 1 bounce of the ball
or
there.
Or 3 errors in 1 game.
I'm just saying you could argue if a bounce here, a play here, a non-mistake there, you're winning these games. So if it can start in the Bronx, let's start tonight then. Let's say Buehler looks good, they win tonight's game. Okay. You take 2 out of, now you got Crochet coming up, right? Take 2 out of 3 from the Yankees. Do you not feel as though this team can turn the tide? Because I do.
But who did they take 2 out of 3 against? The Braves. And we said, this is them turning the corner. And then they did what they did the following week. So that's why, again, I get it. And I entertain the conversation.
Who was after the Braves? O's?
I entertain the conversation because I see what this team is capable of and I know their potential.
Yeah.
But it's more than taking 2 out of 3 in 1 weekend. And yes, it was the Orioles.
It was the O's, right?
I believe it was the Orioles.
I'm looking it up now. I'm looking it up.
And you split with them. But it is a matter of...
No, it's Mets. So that,
then they play well against the Mets, who right now are one of the best teams in the NL, right? But it is a matter of this team getting together and making it more than 1 weekend series and making it string together some successful outings, right? It was taking 2 of 3 in Atlanta, then they dropped 2 of 3 against the Angels and avoid getting swept by Cedane Rafaela walk-off home run. Yeah. The fact that we were like, wait, what was the first time they played Atlanta? Right. And then the second time? Right. But it shows it's consistent. They had the outing at Atlanta. They lost 2 of 3 there. They play well against the Mets. Then they split with the Orioles.
Yes.
They get swept by the Brewers. But then they respond well against the Braves, and then they almost get swept by the Angels.
Right.
So that's why my thing is...
It's like a roller coaster.
Win Friday. You avoid Max Fried. You're going to have Garrett Crochet on Saturday, but you have a good pitching matchup with Walker Buehler starting on Friday. Then you have the stopper, the ace, and Garrett Crochet Saturday. Take 2 out of 3 against the Yankees. Come back home. Take that confidence against the Rays. Can they just minimize the damage? That's what this team has to do. They're top 10 in team batting average. They're up there in team OPS. They can hit recently. Sure. Maybe Jarren Duran, we've seen him ripping doubles off deep center field in Fenway Park. Not just the short wall, 310 to left, the green monster. Like actually ripping doubles and starting to find his bat. Can they hit consistent throughout a game? Can the bullpen hold it down? Can starting pitching put together quality starts? It's the little things. And that's why I don't want to talk about postseason right now. Yeah, I get it. Because I want to talk about how you can win 1 game in 1 series and then the second game in that same series and then just be in it in the third. 2 of 3, 2 of 3, 2 of 3.
I do get it. You know, it's not like I'm sitting up here debating or arguing with you about that. I think most fans feel the way as you do. In fact, Get with us. Email us at chat@nesson.com. Tweet at us using the hashtag NessonChat. Call us 617-790-0928. We're talking state of the Sox here. I think most fans feel the way as you. And I do think there's some that feel the way I do, where you're looking at this and you're doing math equations of how the hell this team can claw back into it and make a playoff run, big picture. But I'll give you an X factor here that's not a player, and it's Alex Cora. And here's what I mean. You and I sit up here in the mornings. We've run sound bites where bro is dejected.
Yeah.
He has no answers. I don't know what's going on. I'm telling him to do this. They're doing that. Right? But one thing he said after the walk-off win against the Angels stuck out in my mind, and I thought, boy, that's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pays out here, is he said, look, a win is a win. We got this win against the Angels. Feel good.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Bronx and handle the Yankees. Let's play well against the Yankees. If we could do that, he said it, that can carry over into the rest of the season.
Yeah.
So he put a lot of pressure. He put a lot of eggs in this Yankees series basket
They should
in the
feel
Bronx.
it. It's a part of, you have to challenge the players.
Yes.
When they keep going out and making the same mistakes, I don't think you should sugarcoat anything. You need to let them know they need to wake up. They need to take the game serious. They need to take what they're doing pitch by pitch, every single play serious, and stop looking so big. And if you break it down and you make it micro in a way, how are you going to get to the top of the staircase? One step at a time.
Sure.
Elevator's broken. Escalators don't exist. You're in a 7th-floor walk up in Beacon Hill. How are you going to get to the top? One step at a time. And I think that's how he has to boil it down for them.
Hold up, man. You can't just gloss over that. You gave us gems and jewels right there. Can you rewind that? Do you even know what you just said?
I don't even know if there's 7th-floor walk up in Beacon Hill. I feel like the max is like 3 stories up there. But that's what I want. And hey, this is big for the Red Sox. Think about when the Yankees play the Dodgers. That's the rivalry in baseball. That is the rivalry.
Yes.
It's no longer Red Sox and Yankees.
That's right.
But who has to look at why? The players in the mirror, they finally have the roster. They went out and got the guys. I know they're injured. I know they're banged up. Where the frustration comes from Boston fans, the frustration I feel when watching this team is the talent is there. Stop shooting yourself in the foot. If the Red Sox stop doing that, break down, cut back on the errors, make the smart plays defensively. Understand, I got to move a guy over to second and set the next batter up for success. It's not about me. It's not about my exit velo. It's not about my home runs. It's about wins and losses. How do you win? It's the little things. It's taking those steps along the way in each game. That's what it has to be. And you know what? You do all that, then this is the heavyweight battle. Then this is the rivalry we know Yankees-Red Sox to be. And then it is the Red Sox back in the playoffs.
Wow, we appreciate
Sorry, you struck a chord, bro.
I know. We appreciate you rolling with us here on Boston Has Entered the Chat. Nesson Nation, we're coming, baby. Roll with us. And remember, get the latest up-to-date live. We've got Boston sports headlines, along with your daily dose of trending sports and social topics every weekday right here on Boston Has Entered the Chat. 8 a.m. on Nesson, 9 a.m. on Nesson Nation.